Good evening to all. First, I'd like to welcome you to the Supreme Council of Culture in Cairo, Egypt. And we are so delighted to have you here. Actually, this is the second round for me, at least, to receive and host a delegation representing Nasser Fellowship in the Council. The first one was about 4 years ago, in 2019. And it was very, very promising, productive meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of a long time today, because I understand that you do have another commitment after that. And today there is a big sports event taking place during the evening, which is pertinent to Africa, by the way, which is the final of the African Championship. So, how many of you here are supporting Al Ahly how many are for that? Yes. So let's. I will excuse you if I'm talking a little bit fast, but please, if there's any questions during my talk, please do ask. Um, the topic that we are going to cover this evening is really it's really a big one. As talking about Egyptian culture is rather very hard in such a short time. So I will just try to give you a glimpse about Egyptian culture, the main strategic objectives that the Ministry of Culture is undertaking currently, and pointing out some of the activities that are taking place. So it will be so broad rather than talking specifically or in minute details regarding any sector or cooperation in the Ministry of Culture. I'm sure that all of you know and recognize the late President Nasser. And the reason I started the presentation on the picture because the whole exercise and the whole initiative actually is related to his name. I'm really glad that the initiative now has been expanded to cover not only our friends from Africa, but it has expanded to cover other nationalities as well from Arab countries and from Europe as well as from Asia. And that would and Latin America. So did I miss something? Australia? Not yet. I think this is a golden opportunity. Just getting together as Africans, first of all, in the early stages of the initiative was a very big plus because just getting together and talking to each other, and even if you are sharing the same culture, it would very much help in understanding, because even if we share the same culture, each country and each nation has its uniqueness in terms of its lifestyle, its traditions, its beliefs, its habits. So it's very, very nice to have the opportunity to exchange it. Now, let alone that we are expanding this to be exposed to other cultures from Europe, from Asia, from Latin America. And I'm sure that you will find out that the commonalities that we do share, apart from being geographically remote, there are so many things as you do share. So, because I was still under the impression that this is basically targeting Africa. These are just some pictures to show how late President Nasser was very active in. The time was different because that was the time of the liberation movement of most of the African countries, and President Nasser played a very important role in supporting those countries. Of course, we have in the middle, late President Mandela. Skip that. This picture of uh, a very prominent figure in Egyptian culture, and he was very close to President Nasser. And actually, the establishment of the Ministry of Culture, which took place back in 1958, was one very important outcome after the revolution, because Nasser and the people at the time paid a lot of attention of culture. Historically, Egypt has a very long history that dates back to even the 19th century, and I'll be showing you this very shortly. But this gentleman, who is called or considered the godfather of Egyptian culture, Dr. Tharat Al-Kasha, because actually what he did at the time paved the way to all the achievements and accomplishments that took place afterwards. I'm not going to read every single slide, of course, but this is just to give you an idea about the vision of the Ministry of Culture in Egypt. And most important, I would like to mention that years back, Egypt put together its strategic development plan called Egypt Vision 2030. Which encompasses many aspects, scientific, educational, economic, political, as well as culture. So all the ministries are working in line to this Vision 2030. I've just mentioned that Egypt has had a very long history in terms of culture. This is just a glimpse to give you an idea about what I meant about that. And these are many firsts that took place back in the 19th century. First printing house back in 1819. First opera house, the Khedive Opera, back in 1869. The first national library in this region back in 1870 called Dar al-Kutub al-Khediwiyya, or Kutub Khana al-Khediwiyya. Later, afterwards, the book, the House of Books, Dar al-Kutub, which is the national library of the country. First newspaper, 1875, Al-Ahram, which is a very prominent newspaper. 1869 witnessed the second world film screening in Alexandria. Do you know where, when, and where was the first one? In Paris.
The Lumiere Brothers.
Lumiere Brothers back in 1895. And directly after, the following year, in 1896, this display took place in Alexandria. That was a very big achievement to be the second worldwide. First university, Cairo University, in 1908. First radio broadcast in May 1934. First television broadcast in 1960. And there are many others. So the idea now is when the revolution took place back in 1952, as I said, they paid a lot of attention to the culture activities, and there was a thought to create an entity. But by the way, at this time there was no Ministry of Culture. Neither there was a Supreme Council of Culture, of course. The Supreme Council of Culture was established in 1956, just to bring all those activities together under one umbrella, because it was thought at the time that it would be much better to have this entity to coordinate between all these activities, this wealth of cultural activities, and to support cooperation between those separated islands. So the Supreme Council of Culture came into being in 1965. 1995, 2 years later, the first Minister of Culture, and the first Minister of Culture was Mr. Dr. Sarwat Okasha that I pointed out to you. Quick, this is the vision. And of course, in the Constitution there are actually many articles about culture and the right to get and to access cultural products for any citizen, regardless of his background, his ethnic attachment, his geographical location. So it is a right. So I just put this Article 48 just to give you an idea about how important culture is. This is, by the way, the Culture Egyptian Constitution of 2014. This is the last one. I've also I mentioned minutes ago Egypt Vision 2030, and as I said, it has many aspects, including the cultural pillar, to create a system of positive cultural values, respecting diversity and differences, enabling citizens to access knowledge within their capacity, to interact with modern developments while recognizing their history and cultural heritage. Now, to be able to implement what has been mentioned in the Constitution, as well as what has been mentioned under the culture pillar in Egypt's Vision 2030, it was important to set some strategic objectives, i.e. programs, and those are the main culture executive programs or strategic goals, if you like, for the Ministry of Culture the ministry is working on. Positive values in the community, to a certain culture equity, to develop talented, brilliant, and creative persons, to create cultural leadership, Egypt's soft power, and I'll come back to this later, to stabilize culture industries, to promote cultural institutions, and to protect and reinforce cultural heritage. Of course, I highlighted the cultural heritage and cultural industries because although the culture was considered for a long time as a service and as a right for every citizen in the country, now because the concept is changing by time, because now all cultural products, whether they are movies, they are theater, they are opera, drama, books, publishing, cultural activities, are considered a very important resource for national income. And I'm sure that in your countries also, the world cultural and creative industries now, does that ring a bell? Because it's a very important issue now that many countries are paying attention to. We have, I'm just trying to highlight some of the programs that was just displayed. We have listed some of the important intangible cultural heritage in the UNESCO list, if you're familiar with that. We have managed to retrieve some stolen assets, namely manuscripts from abroad, from some auction houses in Europe. And this is some of the intangible cultural heritage list under the UNESCO. The last of which was the festivals related to the journey of the Holy Family in Egypt that was registered in 2022. Date palm knowledge, Arabic calligraphy was also one of the cultural heritage registered. And we are working on those because it's very important to document all the intangible cultural heritage pertinent to the country, and sometimes we do cooperate with other countries, and we do offer a joint proposal or project together, especially if the culture, the intangible cultural heritage is shared among more than one country. Okay. Um, Before I was honored to be the Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Culture, I served as the chairman of the Egyptian National Library. It just happened with the support of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that he helped us actually to retrieve very important manuscripts that were taken at some time, and they were being displayed on very famous auction houses' websites to be sold. And that was very heartening actually to see that your assets being displayed and will be sold. And the first one I remember, I had like less than 48 hours to intervene because it was the afternoon of a Tuesday and the auction house was taking place at 10 a.m. on Thursday. So I was checking with my colleagues what would we do normally in such situations, and then we report that, we report to the Ministry of Antiquities, and then of course when I calculated the steps I figured out that it would be rather impossible to do anything if we followed the same routine. We won't do anything. So we did contact the auction house directly. We started long-term negotiations that took us like 3 months. These are samples of these are very precious Arabic manuscripts. And of course, I'm telling this very, very briefly because it's a very, very long story. But the first case we have negotiated, as I said, with the auction house, and then they have transferred me to the possessor of the manuscript. And normally that does not happen. Who actually took another half a month to be convinced that this is ours, and he is willing to give it back. And 48 hours later, I was in London, bringing this back home. This story has been replicated 3 times in about 18 months in 3 different auction houses. All of them are in London. So I would go, we would start, negotiate, convince, travel, stay in the same hotel, wearing the same suit. And the good thing that we did not pay a single penny for this. We got them back for free. And the lady in this picture, what was the second case, while she was actually giving it back, she goes, I would like to tell you one thing. We have not done this before, and I'm not really sure why we are doing this. And I don't understand, she's saying, I don't understand why we are doing this or how we are doing this. But you, as not only me, but I mean me and the crew and the National Library Egypt has shown a very sincere devotion to your heritage. And it's true that we are a commercial entity, but we do respect the nation's cultures. I think that we have dealt with very respectable people because honestly, they would, if they haven't replied in the first place, there was nothing literally to do. But That was one of the big achievements in retrieving these manuscripts, and this is to me personally. Actually, this is, if I would count like three things in my career, I would consider those definitely on the top of the list. Okay, since it was displayed, just very quick. You are familiar with intellectual property? Basically, it has two pillars: industrial properties and artistic. Currently, in Egypt, we have like 9 ministries involved in the activities pertinent to the intellectual property. Last September, Egypt has embarked on a very important step to launch the first national intellectual property strategy. And that was unprecedented. And the core of the strategy is the establishment of an authority, just one single authority, instead of having like 9 ministries between the artistic and the industrial offices, just to have one single authority to be responsible in coordinating all aspects of intellectual property in the country for the first time. Just 3 weeks ago, the law for establishing the authority has been approved by the committee in the parliament, and just one step to go to have this authority in reality, and that would play a very important role in. Let me skip this. One very important issue regarding intellectual property now is what's happening in AI, the artificial intelligence. And in Egypt, in the last 2 weeks only, we have witnessed many strange activities. Like, are you familiar with the Kulthum? Kulthum is. Have you seen it? Okay, so you know who I'm talking about. Kulthum is the most prominent singer in this region for a very long time. She passed away like 74, and still for many, not only by the way in Egypt, but in the whole Arab world, still considered the number one. If you go to anybody from Tunisia, Tunisia, Morocco, especially in this area, if you go anywhere, you'll hear Kulthum singing like in many places. And in Sudan, of course, I mean, the whole of the Arab world. Why I'm mentioning this? Because one composer actually took Kulthum's voice to one of his, and put it on one of his melodies. So we found Kulthum one day, just 2 weeks ago, singing a song which she has never sung. And it's her voice, yes, it was her voice. And it was, so this is just one example. And actually, 2 days later, Abdel Halim Hafiz, which is also a very prominent singer here, was singing to Amr Diab. Amr Diab. So there are many aspects pertinent to how AI will affect cultural activities, and unfortunately, until now, we do not have any laws or regulations that would tell us how to do with this. Nothing. It's just so. I've already mentioned that, so let me skip this. Let me switch to soft power, and I'm sure that you're familiar with the term. Soft power basically is the term to denote any activities that a country or a nation that would utilize to influence the people of other countries, not its own, no, but abroad. Soft power, by the way, to many means arts, songs, drama, films, but actually the reality is soft power is not limited to those. Soft power could be anything. And we had a delegation last week from the Ministry of Culture visiting China, and it was related to the soft power and cultural industries. And they were telling me that panda, the Chinese panda, was was considered very important for the Chinese people as one of their greatest and strongest soft power. They have museums, they have videos, they have displays, they have. So, because we use the soft power, just wanted to tell you that Joseph Nye was the first person to use the term in this book, soft power. He's an American, and he was actually trying to tell America, basically, that the following the Cold War era, that it's time not to rely only on armies and weapons, but to utilize your soft power, any sort and form of arts, of music, of songs, of movies, etc. Okay. By the way, sorry about that. So soft power is all about influencing, attracting, persuading, and trust building. Now, just to give you an example to show what I meant by it's not soft power is not limited to um, any form of arts or music, etc. All the cultural institutions, stated by the way from the British Council, like British Council, Fulbright, you're familiar with Goethe Institute, for instance. Yes, they do offer scholarships for students to travel abroad to study there, conducting their masters or PhDs or whatever. Yes, this is on the surface, it is educational purpose, but actually traveling, living there, being there, interacting with the people would have a very tremendous impact on the person in terms of preferring the lifestyle of the country he or she is living in. I personally experienced that during my master's in the UK. And the first thing at the beginning of the program was me traveling to a different city than the one that I would be studying in, and staying for 1 month with a British family. Full stay. So it was really mutual because it will give you an understanding of how they think and vice versa. So again, it's not music or films or fine arts. It's also the soft power that even you as an individual can convey and influence people if you travel and you are interacting with other nationalities. Okay, Kulthum, Abdul Halim. And this is a very prominent folk group. It's called the Farid Rida, the group that was very, very famous and still is in Egypt. And they have traveled almost all over the world to these shows, and that was one of the best um, soft power indicators of Egypt at the time. I'm sure that all of you know just at least one person there, Omar Sharif. And this lady there in the picture, her name is Faten Hamam. And in Arabic, she's called the Sayyidat al-Shasha al-Arabiya, which is the lady of the silver screen. She was one of the best actresses in the history of Egypt and the Arab world. And the third, and actually she was the ex-wife of Omar Sharif, and the mother of his only son. The third in black and white is a very famous comedian in Egypt. His name is Ismail Yassin. And to show you the impact and influence and how important the soft power of Egypt was, there was a story that during one of the President Nasser's, specifically, it was to Morocco. And during the motorcade, one of the people there stopped and he waved, and Nasser asked them to stop. And he approached the President. Nasser at the time was a very, very important figure and very charismatic personality. And he approached the President, "Welcome, Mr. President, I would like to ask you something." And he said, "Go ahead." And he said, "Please, when you go back to Egypt, say hello to Ismail Yassin." Who is this gentleman? To that extent was the power of soft power. Naguib Mahfouz, winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. Dr. both of them, of course, Dr. Ahmad Zuhail, another Egyptian winner of the Nobel Prize in chemistry. So both are considered definitely, they are not actor or actresses, or they are a thinker and a scientist, but they are considered very important elements in Egypt's soft power. And now we have this gentleman. What Salah did in the UK in the last 4 years, 5 years, so I think he moved in 2017 and joined Liverpool. What Salah did in those 5 years, I would say that if we spent millions of dollars to change some images and some stereotypes concerning Arabs and Islam and Orient in general, we could not have accomplished what Salah did in these past years. Because as you, I'm sure that you are watching this, many started to read about Egypt, to read about Islam, to read about Arabic language. So they started to change the stereotype that many media would like to present about this part of the world. So and I think he's one of the very few. This is his statue in Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in London. And that was the Prince and Princess of Wales during one of the receptions. He was one of the prominent figures being invited to that event, which was related to a charity in London. Now, probably you have heard this term here in Egypt many times, Al-Jumhuriyya Al-Jadida, or the New Republic, which was a term given by His Excellency President Sisi. The New Republic is not, as many may consider, just physical and physical buildings. It's more how we are seeking to change the people, culturally, economically, politically. So, because there are many people that would translate the term that we, especially that we have New Cairo, Al-Qahira Al-Jadida, which is another city at the suburbs of Cairo. So because it was coinciding at the same time with using this term, they thought that the New Republic is the new capital, which is actually is not the case. Because as I said, the main idea is even the civil citizens, the people working with the government would move there. They would move with other talents, pertinent especially with information communication technologies. It will be a paperless society over there. So it's more about changing your thoughts, your culture, rather than moving and building new buildings or new cities. Sorry, because we're running out. These are some pictures of the new administrative capital. And by the way, the reason again I'm putting these are considered soft power because these are all. This is the presidential palace there. These are, by the way, the real pictures, not computer generated. These, actually, they moved. The government moved to the new citizen capital, rather, starting the beginning of this month, the 1st of June. They all moved there.
Yeah.
And the idea was actually to try to lessen the pressure and to empty the city, because as you have noticed, Cairo is a very busy place, and the traffic is not that nice. So we are trying to, because we are talking about a city that has about 18 million people walking and driving and running every day, and this is very big number. So, okay. Has anybody seen this?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you did? Good. Because that was one single parade that attracted the entire world at that evening, and I was actually at that night I was trying to switch between channels, like in the UK and US, Germany, France, and they were all broadcasting it live. And the beauty about this, that there was like people walking live on the streets of Cairo, and there were these cars on their way from the old Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square, heading to the new Hadara Civilization Museum of Egyptian Civilization. and there was an orchestra playing live on the theater of the museum, and there was pre-recorded videos they taken earlier. So the synchronization between the three things was amazing. How to synchronize the orchestra and the people in the street and the pre-recorded. At that point, we have proverbs and sayings in Egypt about the civilization and culture. I would say in Arabic that Misr al-Tarikh, which is Egypt, is the history, and sometimes Egypt ما قبل التاريخ, but ربما كانت قبل التاريخ. Maybe it was even before history. But what I wrote some, which was very strange because I didn't know how I did write this. I wrote in Arabic مصر التاريخ وربما كانت قبل التاريخ بل ربما من أجلها هي كانت تاريخ. Yes, Egypt in history, probably it was before history, or maybe history was because of Egypt. So, this is one of the important, again, please remember that we do talk about soft power, youth forums that took place in different cities in the country, and it gathered thousands of youth from all over the world. Again, another opportunity to come here to talk to the Egyptian youth, to give an idea about the country. Again, this is indirect messages about the culture, civilization, the history. So when these people go back to their respective countries, they will be, or they will act as ambassadors to for Egypt in their respective countries. And I think that was one of the very successful events that took place recently. This is very important. This is again a true picture. It's the cultural and art city in administrative capital in the New Cairo. This one has an opera and a theater, and there was a museum, and there is a library in this complex. Yet to be opened, but the building is there and it's fully equipped now. Museum of the Capitals of Egypt. This is, I just mentioned minutes ago, the Museum of Egyptian Arts, Egyptian Civilization. They do that? This is a good one.
We need more than
We want to be there.
Yeah, but we need more than 1 month to visit all of these sites.
Well, inshallah next time.
No, this
You have I understand that you have a very busy schedule that you're traveling to Alex, which is beautiful, tomorrow, and then you'll be going to Suez Canal area, which is another beautiful place. And please do know that in each city, in Alexandria, it will be totally different than in Suez Canal in terms of its cultural diversity. You will notice people, probably the people will look the same, but I mean in terms of their traditions, their habits, the food, the music, the folk, the dance will be different. This is one of the strength of Egypt cultural power, because in Alexandria is different than in Upper Egypt. If you go south to Luxor and Aswan, it's different than if you go to Sinai. It's different than you go to Matruh. It's different than you go to the Suez Canal area. Different than you go to Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh, this Red Sea area. So, however, yes, they are different, and we have cultural diversities, but they all meld together to form the one single Egyptian identity.
Great.
This is the National Museum. I'm about to finish. This is, inshallah, you'll have time to visit this because this is nice. The National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, and it has like why it's Museum of Egyptian Civilization, because it has more than one, like the Islamic, Coptic, Pharaonic, etc. So, and this was the place where the mummies were moved after the parade I have just mentioned. Thank you very much. I would say we have about 10 minutes for any questions. So please introduce yourself and try to be brief. So to give
I'm Sinan Fish. I'm from Morocco. I'm cultural manager. I'm working with the Ministry of Cultural Youth and Communication of the Cultural Youth Central. I'm founder of Cultural Industrialist Project for the democratization of art and culture in the rural area. So I have so I want to ask you two questions. The first one is, which cultural entrepreneurship model is needed in our region in 2023? And the second question, what cultural entrepreneurship model is needed in our region in 2023? And the second question, what are your strategies to develop and to create a new model of cultural policy in Egypt related with technology and IT? Thanks.
We'll take questions. Yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sam, for this tour. My name is Nadia. I'm an assistant professor at the Faculty of Foreign Languages of John's University. I'd like to ask you, I'm well aware of the initiatives and the programs that the Supreme Council of Culture organizes for young people here in Egypt, along with its subsidiary institutions. Just wanted to know if there are any international initiatives and or programs that address young people from other countries in the region, maybe the entire world, that are open to the entire world. That's my question. Thank you.
Especially for young the children.
Children or young people from other countries that if there are any initiatives and programs that are designed to attract young people from the other countries, given Egypt's leading cultural role in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. My name is Nega Jerry. I am from Uganda. I am pursuing a Bachelor of Law from Uganda Christian University. I have high interest in intellectual property. I appreciate and commend the great work in preserving the cultural heritage of Egypt. My question is in regards to protection of Egypt's cultural heritage in the face and light of artificial intelligence. Honorable Minister, you're able to state that there are no laws currently about that, but as the laws are maybe in the plan and the process of implementing or maybe planning, are there any research initiatives or programs that are being implemented at the ministry to see how you can, and your ministry preserve Egypt's cultural heritage in light of artificial intelligence? Thank you.
So good evening, I am Steve Joby Collins, I'm from Nigeria. I want to know what is the uniqueness of the Egyptian culture, that exceptional uniqueness I have when it comes to the Egyptian culture.
I will ask Farah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، أنا أحمد السقاف. أنا أحمد السقاف من حضرموت اليمن. أشكر سيادة البروفيسور هشام الحسني العالم المستعد للثقافة على هذه الفرصة العظيمة وحضور هيئة المعلومات والثقافة المصرية. وأحب أقول لك أن الثقافة والقصة الحضارية والثقافية ظاهرة في جذور التاريخ قبل التاريخ نفسه، حيث كانت هناك الثقافة الفرعونية ثم أغلبتها أو تأثرت الثقافة المصرية بالثقافة الحضارة الهندسية ثم الثقافة المسيحية ثم الثقافة الإسلامية. وكما أحب أن أحيط أحسن عندي بالمعلومات حول تأسيس المجلس الأعلى للثقافة، تأسس عام 1956 صدور قرار مجلس الوزراء بتأسيس المجلس الأعلى لرعاية الفنون والآداب كهيئة مستقلة من مجلس الوزراء، ثم أضيفت رعاية الشؤون الاجتماعية بعد سنتين بعد 1980 حصلت بالاسم هذا الحالي المجلس الأعلى للثقافة صدور القرار لمرة 50. بالفعل مصر تختصر كم هائل من المعلومات، فشهدت المملكة الوسطى الفرعونية مثل العصر الذهبي للأدب المصري، حيث بعض النصوص البارزة التي ظهرت تشبه قصة النفيفي وتعليمات الحرف الأول، أيضا حكاية السينوهي وقصة بحارة غرقى السفن، كذلك قصة الله الفصيح لا نغفلها. سؤالي الدكتور عبد الشافعي، كيف داومت الثقافة المصرية التطرق إلى هذا؟ كيف داومت الثقافة المصرية التطرق إلى هذا العالم منه في المرحلة السابقة، ومصر تمثل نموذج جميل جدا للتجاوز.
Very important question. Good evening, Your Excellency. Good evening, everyone. Well, my name is. Good evening, Your Excellency and delegates. My name is Olamide Lawal. I'm from Nigeria. Well, first and foremost, I would like to appreciate you for taking us back on the background of the culture. And I also want to appreciate the fact that the Egyptian government has been using the cultural heritage as a means of teaching and keeping, nurturing those heritage for people outside the world to know more about this country. I want to support the question asked by the associate professor in using the Egyptian culture to also nurture young people, because there are two ways to engage the youth, which is sports and creative industry. And the Ministry of Youth and Sports has invested so much in the area of youth engagement. And I believe that the culture, the Ministry of Culture should also emulate the Ministry of Youth and Sport by using this cultural heritage to nurture our young people.
which is a means of addressing several social crises within our state and our continent. Thank you very much.
Do we have a model that we can apply for all Arab nations? Even just one policy, one cultural policy or entrepreneurship? I don't think so. Because it's very difficult to adopt just one pattern. By the way, I was in Morocco 4 months ago. We were discussing the unified cultural Arab strategy. And yes, we were trying, it was of course representatives from all Arab nations, that was by the Alexo, under Alexo umbrella. And yes, we tried to agree on broad guidelines that would govern culture activities in each country, but there was also a general consensus that each country has a unique situation and it has to cater for its own needs that reflects its own culture and own history and own needs. So just to have one policy that would govern culture in all our countries, I think this is very far-fetched, and it's actually not recommended because it's not meant to be like this. It's meant for each country to reflect its own history, its own civilization, its own culture. الطفل we have المركز القومي لثقافة الطفل تابع للمجلس الأعلى للثقافة، وهو أحد الأذرع الرئيسة لرعاية الأطفال والنشء في مصر. بنمتلك تبع المركز ما يسمى بالكالتشرال بارك، الحديقة الثقافية في السيدة زينب، واحدة من الأحياء الثرية والقديمة والشعبية تجتذب عدد كبير جدا من الأطفال. مركز القومي لثقافة الطفل بيقدم وينظم أنشطة تقريبا بصفة شبه يومية. لا يجتذب فقط الأطفال من منطقة السيدة زينب الآن، لكن بيجتذب أطفال من كل النيبرهودز، يعني من كل الأحياء. أهم حاجة المركز يرعى أيضا ويدعم ذوي الهمم، في فرقة كورال، في فرقة موسيقى، وفي فرقة غناء، وفي فرق للرسم، وبيعمل إصدارات، في إصدارات بتصدر عن المركز. هربط ده بالسؤال الخاص ب our friend from Nigeria, how the culture would serve young generation. احنا لدينا في مصر الآن an award، جائزة الدولة للمبدع الصغير. The state award for young innovators or young creators, and this is the first time ever, at least in this region, that a country would dedicate a state award. This is not a competition. This is a state award, as is the ones for the big Egyptian state awards. كأس النيل وكأس الدولة التقديرية وكأس الدولة التشريعية. This is the first time ever that the country encourages its young generation from the age of 5 to age 18 in 3 main areas. First one is arts, and second is literature. And under each, of course, we have like singing, we have composing, and we have playing music, and we have writing poems, writing stories, and writing plays. So arts, literature, and web and applications, innovations. So they would have something new. They create some applications on a mobile or a website, and they have inventions. Also, this is very new. And most importantly, what comes later after the competition. But this year alone, we had more than 10,000 participants from all over Egypt. And from one governorate, which is Asyut, we had more than 3,000. Asyut, by the way, for those who doesn't know, it's one of the Upper Egypt governorates, which was always considered or looked at as being very far away from arts and music. So when you get 3,000 people, young lads out of 10,000 participating in this competition, it means that there is a change taking place. It's not just that they didn't apply, it means that the whole society around them is changing, family is changing, the surrounding is changing, and we are so happy with this. Why uniqueness of Egyptian culture? Because it's an Egyptian culture. It's and if you ask me what's unique about Nigerian or Algerian or Moroccan or Tunisian culture, because it is Tunisian, or because it's Russian, or because it's English, or because it's that what it gives it its identity and uniqueness, because each one of those has a different history, different traditions, and even if, as I said at the beginning, if you do share some commonalities, definitely you will find very specific things that would be very, very special to this community or this society. So we are happy that we have this diversity. We don't like to see replications for histories or different civilization or different cultures. So, and that what makes the world. ده سؤال مكافحة التطرف والإرهاب ده. هقول إنه how we extremism and fundamentalism. أنا هقول إن السبب الرئيسي في مكافحة التطرف والإرهاب يعود إلى طبيعة هذا الشعب. الشعب بطبيعته شعب متسامح ومسالم ولا يلجأ للعنف، وعندما وجد انه هناك جماعات تحاول ان هي تاخذه الى مسارات اخرى تتخذ فيها من العنف، عمر ما الحوار بالعنف كان ناجح، وعمر ما الشعب المصري قبل اي نوع من انواع الضغوط. هذا شعب احتل 70 عام من المملكة المتحدة، وكانت الإمبراطورية التي لا تغرب عنها الشمس، ولم تنجح في إكساب الشعب حتى اللغة الإنجليزية. كان نوع من مقاومة المحتل إن هو لا يتعلم حتى لغته. فأعتقد إنه الشعب طبعًا في أجهزة وفي شرطة وفي جيش وفي حكومة وفي، لكن unless the people، وهو ده الحقيقة الكور في الموضوع كله، انه الناس كانت رافضه لهذا، لانه فكر غريب. مصر طول عمرها وطن متسامح معتدل بيجمع كل الاطياف. عمرنا الحقيقه ما كنا بنتكلم، انا كان بيبقى زميلي جنبي في الفصل ولا اعرف ديانته ايه، ما اعرفش مسيحي ولا مسلم ولا يعني ما نعرفش. الاسكندريه كان في وقت من الاوقات فيها جريك ويونان، جريك وفرنش وايطاليانز، which was very cosmopolitan، وارمن. طبعا احنا عندنا جاليه، ده السكرتير الجاليه الارمنيه هنا بيتكلم عربي احسن مني، والله بيتكلم he speaks Arabic fluently, and many ambassadors are serving here. Actually, the Greek ambassador, the British ambassador, the German, they all speak Arabic. And by the way, when we were celebrating the Arab Language Day by the United Nations, we asked those ambassadors to give a talk, a short talk. We had 7 of them talking in Arabic, just appraising how rich the Arabic language is. I'm afraid that it's time to leave, because there are people waiting. Thank you very much for coming. We're so glad.